Hi, I'm Dr. Sonya Doherty. I'm a naturopathic doctor and part of the exceptional ND team. And I'm here today with Dr. Jennifer Drummond, who is also a naturopathic doctor who has a special interest and expertise sort of in the world of homeopathy. And we're excited to hear more about that and things that Dr. Drummond you might find are important for the profession or our colleagues to know. And joining us today, of course, is my sister, my partner in crime, Dr. Carissa Doherty. All naturopaths excited to have this interview. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your experience with homeopathy early on.
Okay. So yeah, homeopathy, I had no respect for it at all. First of all, I didn't grow up with it in my family. Very allopathic. I grew up eating Twinkies and Cheetos. I thought pasta came out of a can when I grew up. There was, yeah, never any fresh fruit or vegetables. What kept me in shape was sports. And so when I got older, I started giving all of that up. And diet, sports, that was what I was going to. Naturopathic medicine, I was thinking more herbal medicine. But homeopathy, I had never heard of it, and it really threw me for a loop. When I first heard about naturopathic medicine, it was through a PhD friend of mine. I was doing my 4th year in biology, and she had pulled me aside and said, look, I know you want to go down the med school route, but I think this may fit your personality way better. And she started telling me about her own story, how she had a strain of pneumonia that the doctors had basically said, we can't do anything for you. It's untreatable. She had 4 small children, and it was the local naturopath that saved her life. And now he's not part of their family, but like he has treated them all. He knows them all. And me being very social, just really enjoying connecting with people more than just writing a script. I thought, actually, yeah, like through storytelling, through teaching, through naturopathy, that sounds like a good plan. But homeopathy wasn't even on the radar at all. I don't know where to begin. I guess to the point that when I was in naturopathic college, when I first started sitting in the classes, like actually after the first class, I was appalled by it because the numbers, when they talk about how dilute it is, it's beyond Avogadro's number. And for me, not knowing anything about energy medicine, not knowing anything about that was just a frank, no, I'm not going there. And I went up to the professor and started talking with him after class. And then I would start bringing in articles denouncing homeopathy written by physicists and other scholars. The homeopathy teachers were patient with me on their off class hours. And finally, it was just trying it as an experimenter and getting a reproducible headache after each time I took it. That's where I started seeing, okay, there's some science in it. And I guess going back to the science, like how driven I was by that, my 4th year, I was doing research in the gastroenterology unit. I ended up, because I'd started so late in my project, it was just a whim to do it. I ended up presenting my project in the annual Queen's Medical Research Day. I came in 1st place. It was a disaster because my research was good, but I was so nervous. I was trying to use the pointer and my arm was shaking. I had to grab it and use the second arm. And so it was a terrible presentation, but the research was solid. And I ended up winning 1st place. And I did get a scholarship to do my master's. But naturopathy kind of appealed to me more. So homeopathy was a big slap in the face. I was actually ready to quit the college with it.
We almost lost you. We almost lost you as natural.
Yeah, just based on that, I would have maybe become a herbalist or acupuncture or something, but definitely not homeopathy.
I think it's one of those incredible things that until you really experience it or see it work, that it is a little bit hard to believe the power that lies within a homeopathy. I remember when my oldest was, my oldest has pandas. So, when he was 4, he'd get pandas flares and we didn't really fully understand it. But I remember I had an appointment with Dr. Paul Saunders out in Dundas and he was like, my son was like, you're a horrible mother and I hate you. He's like 4 and he's got these big, long, critical sentences like, you're a horrible doctor. I don't know why anyone would see you as a patient. You're, just this litany of, whatever coming from this little dude. And so all the way up to Dundas, he's screaming and yelling. And I was embarrassed even to go in. So my mom was with me and my 2 younger kids. And so we stood outside his office in Dundas, and I said, can you just let us know when Dr. Saunders is ready? Because, I'm embarrassed my child's screaming these things at me. So we walk I don't know if you've ever been to Paul's, but you walk the hallway to the back, and it's pretty long, right? No one's still going on. And Paul closes the door and he looks at me, he said, do you remember when I taught you heap ourself? They gave him a remedy. And, my husband had been away. He was away that weekend, so he came home Sunday. And we talked about this the other day. He's like, what happened? Like, it completely, changed him and improved his pandas and took away this sort of like really frustrated, upset child. And I think Rowan slept all the way home, and he was so much calmer. But yeah, it's, we have lots of those stories, I think. I hope that naturopathic doctors who are younger listening to this interview really don't get sucked into the idea that there's no power in homeopathy. I think one of the reasons I was so excited to interview you was how much success you've had, because I think that's an important message for them.
Yeah, I think also sometimes homeopathy, there's so much to learn about each medicine. If you start looking at sulfur, it's got pages and pages and pages. It will treat everything. But if you give it to someone who doesn't fit the basics of sulfur, it will treat nothing. And so homeopathy is an all or nothing medicine, I find. And so it's easy to say, oh, that didn't work. Homeopathy doesn't work. It's never the fault of the medicine. It's the fault of the prescriber. They didn't know enough, or they didn't get enough information, because sometimes it's you're questioning, or patients don't remember, but it's really detailed. It's so, if we're wanting to talk about science, it is so detail orientated. And I wish, actually, like, I'm not in my office, my in-person office, I'm at home, but I have so many books on homeopathy that, written in the 1800s, written in the 1900s, and it's so detail orientated. Like, they used to have hospitals dedicated to homeopathy, and it's quite an incredible, precise medicine. You have a headache, I don't have a homeopathic Tylenol or to give to you. I don't. I need to know, is it frontal? Is it the parietal? Does it feel like hammers? Does it begin in the neck and end up here? Does it go to the right eye, the left eye? Is it sudden onset? Does it go away gradually? Like, it's a lot of questioning, but when you get really good details, it's easy. And you can have a first, sometimes in the first visit, it's an hour and a half for me. And sometimes people will just feed you amazing symptoms that you're like, oh, it's sepia, it's lycopodium. And then you're gathering more information, but you already know what to do with their menstrual pains or their headache or their depression or whatever it is.
I love it. Interesting too, I think when you were training our exceptional ND members last month for our acute homeopathic prescribing, you had sort of talked about a different approach that was not just the constitutional sort of prescribing. So I was hoping you'd share a little bit more about that, because I found that very helpful, looking more at
so this was with the CEDH. So you can find it under boiron.ca. It's the Center Educational Development of Homeopathy. It's an international group of medical doctors that use homeopathy regularly, and they have consulted and found tried and true methods for things. So it's, I was trained under Joe Kellerstein for more classical homeopathy, more Hahnemannian, and that helped my practice immensely. And the CEDH has just taken it to a new level. I'm seeing results very, very quickly. And it's really nice to know that, okay, so if someone has shingles, shingles follows a pattern. And so you have a homeopathic medicine based on the exact stage they're at. And it's actually, or certain fevers, it's a very, like, if people are, one of the criticisms of homeopathy is like, oh, it takes too long to learn, and it is so detail orientated. But this is a very good fast track way of figuring out how to make homeopathy work in your practice, because it's very practical. Even the dermatology unit I've never had it ever explained to me that when they show a skin lesion and say, actually, this fits petroleum, like these cracks in the fingers, or nitric acid, based on if it's a red crack, or if there's like more of a dirty aspect, like brown in it, that's petroleum. Like those kinds of things are, and it's not like you have to memorize it all. You have it in a book or you have it in your notes. Like we don't, like, so that's you just look and you're like, oh, photo medicine, like that is really nice sometimes too. It's really, we all need that kind of stuff in our practice. Otherwise it's just too difficult.
There are days where my brain doesn't work, and a photo match would be great. Yeah.
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 It's
I got
interesting because we had Dick Tom on yesterday for Exceptional
Yeah.
ND talking about skin, and he said something that I think is so important to share, right? Is that if you're not using energetic medicine, you're not helping your patient get into the state of restoring health.
Yeah.
And I feel like that can be a guiding principle for naturopathic doctors, because really at this point, our younger naturopathic doctors coming out don't feel that way. I think that could be a safe and non-inflammatory sort of way.
Exactly. Like, so I have an amazing case with a man who was constantly developing cysts. So it was a lot, it was, he was quite a thin man, cyst on his back, and it came out maybe like a 1 centimeter protruding out, and a bit of an egg shape there. He had it surgically removed about 3 times. And so we can say, okay, we got rid of the problem. It keeps, but the body is overburdened in a way. And so he's in a psychotic miasm at that point. So psoric is that you get a fever, you get sick, you get rid of it. You get bronchitis, you get rid of it. Like, you quickly heal. A psychotic medicine person would be more, they are overburdened, and for the body to continue, they need to package away toxins or materials, and so they'll figure out other ways for the body to continue with this burden of toxins. And so this man was developing cysts, and so Silicea is a medicine that we use a lot for expelling things out of the body, but also a tendency to form cysts in the body. And so I gave him Silicea once a week, so 10 pellets, Silicea 30C, 10 pellets once a week, and that went on for a good while. And then if I told him, if the cyst ever got inflamed to the point that, like, very painful, like you don't want to touch it, we did Heparsulf 30C at that point. And so Heparsulf is also very anti-infection. And so if it was inflamed, Heparsulf, so they did that. And his wife said that it was a little hole developed in the cyst, and she just kind of pressed it. And luckily they were in the washroom, because they had to mop up the floor afterwards.
Oh my gosh.
It was so much fluid that had come out. And so you can have to imagine, like, we just saw like the tip of the iceberg with it, but it was very large in the body, taking up a lot of space, or it was an avenue for fluid accumulation in some way. And after that, he's never needed it since, and there's been no recurrent cyst. So homeopathy is a way of saying, okay, it treats acutely, but if you know how to look at it from a holistic perspective of, like, okay, we're trying to actually get rid of this tendency and improve the functioning of the body. Homeopathy was really amazing at doing it. And this person also, he was already doing diet, he was already doing exercise, he was already doing vitamin, like he was doing all the good stuff, but yet his body couldn't deal with things. And so homeopathy was incredible.
It is. It's amazing when you have those successes. I mean, I think about my kids a lot when I think about homeopathy, because sometimes we've had just such incredible home runs. So my daughter had molluscum and it wasn't getting better. The boys was getting better, but hers wasn't. And I gave her Silicea, and literally overnight, it was gone overnight, to the point where she had little scars, and she still has very tiny scars today, but it was incredible, like overnight gone.
Well, even for like another Silicea, like when I start going, I'm like, blah, 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 blah.
I love it.
So the Silicea, one of my first cases with it was a woman I was treating for menstrual issues. And a question Joe had said to me, like a really good question to ask after you've finished all of your interview, is you say anything else, anywhere else. And then you don't say another word. People will pause, think, and then, they'll give more information, which is amazing. And she was saying, well, a number of years ago, I was changing a light bulb, it fell, and then I stepped on it. And the doctors surgically removed everything they could, but I still have shards of glass in my foot. So every time I walk, I can feel it. So that's a pretty major issue. And I gave her Silicea. And at this point, I was using more 200 potencies. And it just goes to show, sometimes it doesn't matter. Like we get hung up on things. And then if we're too much of a perfectionist, we'll never use it. And so it's like, you got that medicine, try it. So we did Silicea 200, and it was really as needed. So 3 pellets, she took it, she could start feeling tingling in her feet, and then it would stop. She would take it again. And this would maybe be like 6 days later, the tingling would stop. She took it again, more tingling, and she took it again, more tingling. And she said it was as if the pieces of glass were going out the exact same way they came in. And within 3 or 4 doses over a week or two, no more pain. She could walk completely fine for kilometers with no sensation of glass in her feet. So, it was a few years before I had seen her that this injury had happened.
Homeopathy is awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome medicine.
I love it. On that note, maybe we'll wrap up and make this interview really like doable so that people can listen to it in half an hour, because I could talk forever. Like I came in, my daughter has a sore foot, and so I'm like, I need the remedy. I need the remedy now. I need it. So I love it, but I love that we can think to something for a first aid, but also think about it as the whole system. And I don't think any other medicine does that. Like any other subset of naturopathic medicine takes you from like one state to another state. So yeah, I love that you shared the different miasms, because it is something that I don't think gets taught. And I think you sort of have to like know that it exists and then see it in your practice. And then you're like, okay, now do I do? Now I get it. I get what it looks like. Now let's get started, start the process. Yeah. So
when I think the other way to look at homeopathy, right, is like it helps you do your job better, right? You're going to get better results. You're going to get more referrals. Like if you're thinking about building a patient base for younger naturopaths, those home runs, like the arnica, the easy wins. I think you mentioned during the training with the exceptional NDs, easy wins builds confidence, your patient's confidence in you, and builds your practice. And yeah, it's incredible.
Oh, that's right. We did do two lectures with Dr. Drummond. So if you do want to see her do 2 lectures, and they were awesome. They were like system by system was the first lecture, very structured. And then the second, 2 weeks later, she did cases on the system. Like it was like the same presentation. And then like the cases came to life. It was really, the 2 presentations are amazing. I've printed one out so I can actually look at it, like the systems and the remedies. So we really appreciate your approach and your organization. It's been watched again, like for me.
Yes, it was really fun to do. And it was good for me, because even after that, like I had a few people come in. I'm like, oh, I'm going to look at my notes too.
I know your notes were so good. I know.
Really good.
Yeah. We got after, we're like, someone's like, what about constipation? I'm like, yeah, we'll have to ask her again. Cause, but so we really appreciate your experience and your presentations. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for
your time today.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Lots of fun.
Take care. Awesome.
Bye.
And now I just have to figure out how to press stop.
I know, like
recording. It's like delayed. I'm stopping, I promise.
Okay.